Well, I'm not sure how it's going to all unfold in the coming months, Mal, but we'll have to change that stinger. 13th Immortal, Mal Meninga, and the Perth Bears coach. Have you heard anything? Have you got an update for us?
Yeah, because I'm in negotiations, obviously, with the game. Really happy with the way it's all going. Hopefully, we'll come to some sort of climax, if that's a word, very, very soon. So, looking forward to. I'm excited about the opportunity, obviously, to be their first coach, help set the game up over there, which is in the club up there. So, not quite at the final tape yet, mate, but very close.
He's just a little impatient, Mal, because
hang on.
He predicted it was going to be happening on Monday.
Peter V'landys 3 weeks ago said this will be done in the next 1 or 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, it's 3 weeks later. That's the only reason I'm impatient. I'm hanging off every word he says. Is it a case, Mal, of trying to find the replacement for the Aussie job before they make the announcement, or is it they just haven't got there yet?
Corey, I haven't even had a conversation around the Australian job, to be honest with you. So I don't know where that conversation is going to go to. Obviously, it's all around the Perth Bears at this particular stage. My preference, obviously, would be to continue coaching the Kangaroos this year. That would be my preference, and take them over to England with the Ashes tour, with obviously the idea of a bit like what my role would be with the Bears is, do some succession planning. So, I've been with the Kangaroos for 10 years, loved the job, got it to a stage now where it's, obviously it's buzzing along. We all know how popular the game has, or this particular series is overseas, and I'd just love to be part of it.
Yeah, well, don't go poaching any of our players, mate. When you're in the
Kangaroos,
we only had one in Origin. We're not going to have too many in the Kangaroos if we don't start winning. Mel, where would you start with the Broncos? In the sheds, how low do we go to reignite everything?
That's a good question, Hills, and I think the only people that know that, mate, is in those four walls. So. It's a difficult one to put your finger on why. They've certainly got a great side, great talent pool, great individual players in their footy side. At the moment, I watched the game last week, obviously, against Manly, and my thoughts is that they don't seem to be playing the way they want to play. They don't seem to be the Broncos. I'm pretty sure that Mad's obviously trying to change the culture of the club and perhaps the way they play, but just not playing the Broncos way, and they're playing within themselves. I think that's the phrase I used. They're within themselves. They're not expressing themselves the way that I believe they should, and it looks like they're not having fun, doing it that way. They're sort of just being conservative.
Mal, we spoke last week in and around the wash-up from State of Origin, that being Queensland 1-0 down in the series and very much underperformed where they needed to. Back-to-back losses at Suncorp. We're a week down the track. Do you think there'll be much change for Game 2 for Queensland?
I don't think so, Cos. I don't believe so. I think, Game 1's always going to be your clunkiest, and it's just a matter of who's got the most desire and who gets away with all their opportunities, really. I feel that, to have success, particularly in Perth, we haven't done well in Perth. So it's like, from a mental point of view, there's no doubt those players who performed in Game 1 would love a second opportunity. That's the way I look at it. And then off the back of that, all those combinations and cohesion that they developed through that first week and then back into the second preparation, I think would, be advantageous. So I don't see too many changes, but, they have to play better, don't they?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there's every need to have a look at maybe changing a couple of different formulas within that Queensland side. They lost last year's series. They've gone back-to-back losses at home, and pretty much, you'd love another opportunity. But the jersey owes none of those players anything, and it's been like that ever since the inception of Queensland. So it'd be interesting to see what unfolds. Another round of football still to be played.
I just add to that, though, because I think they need to play a different way.
Right.
So that they're going to go back and have really got to look at the way New South Wales strangled them. You know, so New South Wales, they completed their sets, they got down the other end, and our back five were virtually ineffective. And if you don't have momentum in Origin, your halves can't do much, and your hooker can't do much. I mean, there was some performances below par that we know that they'll be better game two. I feel that Billy and his troops have got to have a look at the way they play, the way they use the football, particularly come out of their end.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you make a good point. You mentioned about the way they played, and someone that is playing well is the Green Machine, the mighty Green Machine. You're the Messiah, as Heels has sort of labelled you with the Green Machine. But Corey Horsburgh, his name has come into contention for the Maroons. He's been there before. I think it's his most consistent seasons. He's obviously had a real hard look at himself because there was that unrest between him and the coach, and they obviously found some common ground, and they've worked hard together.
Right,
and he's bearing the fruits of that as to the team. I spoke about the other day, Mal, that winning and losing, for that matter, can be infectious. And the Raiders at the moment are epitomising everything to do with winning. And the lessons that are being learnt from these young stars coming through while still winning in the NRL are certainly going to be invaluable moving forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. First and foremost, I was very surprised that Corey didn't make the first game. Obviously, play for Queensland. That's one of his huge goals, and the way he's handled that, and went back and he played really well against the Warriors, and again on the weekend, so he's obviously going to come into contention because he wants that more than anything in life at the moment, Corey, and he loves putting on that maroon jersey. I am inside the inner sanctum of the Raiders, and it's a really happy environment because when you. And like you said, when you're winning, particularly those young fellas, they get the smell of it.
Yes.
And they love it, So they're playing really, really well at the moment. They're going to have their ups and downs, don't worry. But at the moment, they're learning their lessons by winning and by their experiences coming with winning. So that can only go well for their future. But, they're a pretty happy, pretty good unit at the moment.
Yeah, just off the back of what you just, such a young group learning their lessons off winning. I mean, you look at, the Penrith Panthers. They've played in 5 grand finals. They've won 4 in a row. They have, when they first won their first, 4 years ago, they were such a young group, and it was so powerful to see them just being able to continue that way. And just maybe, you did make mention, they'll go through their ups and downs, the Raiders. And listen, I've got my hand on, I've apologised multiple times in and around. They've certainly overachieved where I thought they were going to be. But they can certainly make their mark in the next few years, that's for sure, if it's not going to be this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I know inside the feeling inside that camp, Ricky's got him buzzing. It's and Penrith are a really good example of success, because what's happening with Penrith at the moment, because they're lacking that shared experience, that shared winning experience at the moment, and they've struggled. They've done really well. I mean, this is what makes it so phenomenal with Panthers winning 4 grand finals, being in 5 years in a row. It's been phenomenal because they've had to turn players over and bring these young ones in and keep winning. So at the moment, they're struggling with that. So, Penrith are a really good example. And then, the Raiders are on the way up. They're not on the way down. They're sort of on the way up.
To me, the Raiders seem well known to the public of Canberra too. Would that be right?
Oh, it's only a small city, Hills, so when teams here in Canberra, get success, they've got a great following. Matilda's played here through the week. They had a capacity crowd with the girls. So sport in Canberra is huge. They love the Brumbies. They're doing really well in their super rugby as well. They just got pipped at the weekend, but they're still in the competition. So, sport in Canberra is big, and it's, even though it's cold, it's big. People go out there and follow it if their teams are winning.
Yeah. You'll probably get another couple of years if he wants them out of Papa as well.
Yeah, Big Pups, what a great person, what a great, stalwart for our game down here in Canberra and for the game in general. He come down here as a, 16-year-old kid, 15, 16-year-old kid, and loves the place. He's had his ups and downs and challenges, which we all do, but, to break, Jason Craker's record of 118 games, and Corey, you're in this sphere as well. With rugby league, it's hard to do, particularly in the middle of the pack, and he's done it really well.
Yeah, the thing
I'll just correct. Mel said 100. It's 300. 300.
Yeah, of course. The thing that I've most enjoyed about Pups is, and you'd be able to test this too, Mal, is the fact how he's been able to evolve his game, but not just from on the field, but mainly off the field. Because I heard Jared Croker talking yesterday afternoon in and around Pups and the way that he looks after himself. Early doors, he was just loving the game and probably doing what we all did when we were younger, just sort of burning the candle at both ends, but you can only get away with that for so long. But he's really changed that area, and to do what he's doing and still be so effective. I was looking up some opportunities the other day. He is effectively out. He's retired from rep football, but he could certainly still mix it up.
Yeah, he can, mate. And he's only playing like 30, 40 minutes. He's loving that role.
Yeah.
In the middle. He does work hard. He does look after himself. He's the fittest he's been in quite a while, coming into the season.
Yep.
Knowing the fact that, this could be his last year with the Raiders. And I tell you, he's no more popular person within the Raiders group. And, what it's like when, players sort of understand this could be the last time they get an opportunity to play with Josh Papali'i. They give one hell of a go, and that's probably one of the motivations, around why they're going so well at the moment, because they are doing it for Big Papa.
Yeah, that's a fair motivation to have. With
Mal, I guess we go into the tips for the weekend. Would that be right?
Oh well, who's going to tip this week and get it right? Seriously,
who knows?
Well, another great round of rugby league. Honestly, you look at every game and. There is doubt, isn't there, about who's going to win, who's not going to win, So,
the first one's, there's no worse one than the first one, I reckon.
Yeah,
the Knights v the Manly Seagulls.
Yes. Well, the Eagles are so inconsistent, aren't they? They win one, they lose one, So the Knights at home, they need to win. They've got Kalaponga back, obviously. Leo Thompson's out for a number of weeks. Who bloody knows, mate? Oh, dear.
Well,
you have to go the Eagles, I suppose, on form.
Okay, the Storm are back at home. They take on the Cowboys. Now, I called the Storm game for SEN down there at the Gold Coast. They are finding a way to win, but they are way off their best at the moment. They do get back Harry and Xavier, though.
And Trent Loiero.
They do. And, again, it's the Storm is, Craig talks about consistency. And then Toddy Payton talks about consistency, So the Cows had the game well in control last week, and the Tigers come home in a flash. So, but the Storm don't get beaten at home, surely.
Yeah, okay. Same 17. Only one of two teams, same 17, the Cowboys. And
I reckon the Cowboys will win that one. There you go.
Righto.
Yeah, cos.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay, we'll hold my pencil. Dolphins and Dragons is another one.
Well, how well are the Dragons going? Again, you wouldn't have thought that, they'd be sort of in your top 8, halfway through the year, based on, I guess, their squad, but they're playing really good rugby league and, hanging in all the time, playing with great enthusiasm. So the Dolphins are a great side too. I kind of think the Dolphins at home, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, well, that's a flip a coin. That
one. Pelotu comes back, the money man.
We got flip coins all 8 games.
Terrific game. The Sharks up against the Warriors. I mean, the Sharks get back a couple themselves. Katoa, he is back for the Sharks. The Warriors, unfortunately, that injury to Mitch Barnett. I mean, you never want to see anyone go through an ACL, but they're sorely going to miss him.
How handy has Jackson Ford been?
He's been good.
Yeah, he's been a great addition to their side. I feel there's a bounce back with this one, Cross and Heels. I feel that the Warriors, they're playing well, and I feel that they've got a bit of a point to prove with Mitch Barnett out. I reckon. I feel that the Warriors might give the Sharks a bit of a run this Saturday.
Right. The Sharks are fresh, aren't they? They're coming off a bye.
They're fresh, and
Right.
Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. Yeah. But I think the Warriors have given them a shake this week.
Broncos have got a lot of reshuffling.
Yeah,
they're doing, but Reece Walsh back in against the Titans, everyone's got a broken hand.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I think the Bronx, the Titans, they can score points, just defending, mistakes and poor discipline at times, So I think with Reece back in, and if they want to play the brand of footy that allows Reece to play his brand of footy, I think the Titans may struggle defensively to hold him.
Big occasion also for Adam Reynolds in game 300, so that'll be a big one for the Broncos back at home. The Tigers taking on the Panthers. They finished fast last week. Benji Marshall praised them for all their effort, but they take on a Panthers outfit who were pretty good in what was a decent game against Parramatta last week. They've got all their stars back and they need to win every game. Can they get this one done?
Yeah, I think the Panthers played really well last week to beat the Eels, who played well too. So, yeah, I think the Panthers are back on track, and they, with their gun players back, knowing that they have to win footy games, could spell dangers for the Tigers.
Then we go Canberra Rabbitohs.
The Raiders at home is obviously, but the Rabbitohs always keep on hanging in there. They nearly got the Warriors again on the weekend, So Wayne Bennett's coach size, but Ricky will have him fired.
And Jamal Fogarty, will he be back or still on the sidelines?
At the moment he's back. They'll make a judgment on him sort of later in the week. But didn't that young Ethan Sanders go well?
He did.
So they've got there's some talent underneath all the senior guys too. So the Raiders at home, men. So for sure.
Which really emphasised what Ricky said a number of weeks ago in regards to Jamal Fogarty. They've got some young people and young players coming through that they want to try and keep at the club, so they're certainly sticking to that. In the last game, the Bulldogs against the Eels in jersey 23 at the moment. Galvin has been named. Do you expect him to play?
I'd play him. I'd definitely play him. Where you play him is a different matter. I just get him on the field and get to play him. So maybe in the middle somewhere, throw him on, or if Toby's going, obviously if he's going well, but just give him a spell, play him at 7. You can switch them all around. You can bring young Steve Crichton off if you want to. Put Matty Burton at 6 at centres. You've got plenty of options. So I'd play Galvin, and the Dogs should. It's going to be a tough game for him.
Good game, isn't it?
But I think I'd play Galvin for sure.
Righto, easy for you to say, mate. All those reshuffles in the back line and where Burton's going to go and land those bombs, mate. Mal, thanks very much once again. We look forward to an announcement or so this week and look forward to your tips all coming to fruition.
Thanks, gents. Bye.